welcome to Chapter 10. This is Motivation, Personality, and Emotion. A really interesting chapter for what we're going through right now. So I have my notes right here, so I'm thinking you guys can follow along. You can either print your slides out or have your slides on your phone, however you want to do it. I'm going to try to get fancy and maybe see if I can drop some slides into these videos, but I need to get this stuff out to you. So let's get started. So our first slide is always the same slide I show you in class. We are in the internal influences. You know the drill. We always start with the whole consumer behavior chart. So we're finishing up, well, we're almost done with the internal influences sheet. So if we keep going through our slides, slide number 4, we start to talk about the nature of motivation. So motivation. A lot of us are maybe not feeling super motivated right now. I know with everything going on, it's hard to feel motivated. One thing I want you to know with this slide, motivation versus motive, okay? Motivation is the reason for behavior. The reason for behavior. Motive is why an individual does something. So if you've ever watched Law and Order or CSI, what's the question they always ask? What's the motive, right? So if we move on to the next slide, which I believe is slide number 5, we start talking about the nature of motivation. So there's 2 theories in this chapter that you're going to have to understand. The first one is Maslow's hierarchy, and that's one I know we cover in Marketing 250. I'm going to hit on the major points, and there is a YouTube video I love on Maslow's hierarchy. So what I'm going to try to do, fingers crossed, is put that link in the description of this video. If I screw that up, I'll email it to you, okay? So let's talk Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's based on 4 premises. All of us acquire a similar set of motives through genetics and social interaction. Okay, so all of us have a similar set of genetics. Some motives are more basic than others, okay? The more basic the motives must be satisfied before other motives are activated. So safety, hunger, things like that. Those things have to be addressed first. They're the more basic needs. As basic motives are satisfied, more advanced motives come into play. So if we jump right into the 5 categories within Maslow's hierarchy, it's physiological, safety, belongingness, self-esteem, and self-actualization. So starting with physiological, it's food, water, sleep, right? That's why our shelves have been empty for the last couple weeks, right? People were thinking about their very basic needs. Toilet paper. Safety. So physical safety, security. We quarantine ourselves into our homes because this is where we feel safe, right? Belongingness, so the desire for love or friendship, group acceptance. Products in this category would be trendy clothes, cool makeup. The example in the book is Olive Garden. The Olive Garden slogan, when you're here, you're family, okay? They're capitalizing on that feeling of belongingness. Esteem, so you think self-esteem, status, superiority. It's why rappers drink Cristal. I've never had Cristal. Have any of you? Anyway. Self-actualization, so that's the 5th. That's the 5th category within Maslow. Self-actualization, the desire for self-fulfillment, to become all that you're capable of being. It's why you educate yourself, why some of you will go on to your masters and do other things. It's self-actualization. It's why Nike has a slogan, just do it, right? They want you to think about the ways you make yourself better, okay? So that's Maslow. That's Maslow's hierarchy. We can talk about McGuire's. We can move on to the next slide, slide 6. the nature of motivation. We're still in that category. So McGuire's psychological motives, I'm going to just touch on them. So understanding that slides 6 through 9 represent all 4 of McGuire's psychological motives. These motives are more detailed and ask the following questions. Is the mode of motivation cognitive or affective? Cognitive meaning a person's need to adapt to their surrounding while achieving a sense of meaning. Affective meaning that the feeling of satisfaction in obtaining goals. Okay, so cognitive is the need to adapt to surroundings. There's a sense of meaning. Affective is that feeling of satisfaction in obtaining goals, right? I mean, there's similarities, but there really is a difference between those two. Is the motive focused on status quo or growth? Is the behavior actively initiated, so on purpose, or in response to something? So are you doing something on purpose, or are you reacting? Right? Are you proactive or reactive? Does the behavior help the person achieve a new internal or external relationship to the environment? So those are the questions that these motives, that McGuire's psychological motives answer. So I'm going to touch on just the very basics. I want you to spend a little time reading through this. So the first one here on slide 6, I'm just going to hit a couple points real quick. I mean, cognitive preservation motives. Preservation. Think about it. The desire for consistency in every part of one's life. Think about right now. It's a weird moment in time. You don't have a lot of consistency. Or your consistency might be wearing pajamas all day and not showering. I don't know your life. It could be though. So, cognitive preservation motives. The need for consistency, the need for attribution, the need to categorize things in your brain. So I want you to spend a little time reading that. I can move on to the next, number 7, cognitive growth measures. So that's the need for independence, individuality. Typically Americans, the American culture lends itself to that feeling. It's one of the cornerstones of our society. The fact that we like to be individuals. We like to have custom things. We like to be different. What are some ways marketers have responded to this motive? That's a question for you. What are some ways marketers have responded to motive number 2, cognitive growth motives? So if I move on to slide 8, I can talk again, but this is about affective preservation motives. So think about it again, where we are right now. There's tension and stress, and we as humans are always seeking a way to release that. Yesterday I got an email from Michael's, you know the store Michael's, the craft store, and the heading was, "Boredom Busters are here. Look inside for creative projects to make with your kids." So Michael's learned, they said, yeah, they're going to be stressed out. They need activity. I'm going to capitalize on this. No hate, no shade. Very smart marketing. But again, this is very basic psychological stuff that good marketers know they have to tap into. And did I look at it? Sure. I'm homeschooling an 8-year-old. Anyway, all right. So moving on to page 9. Effective growth motives. Okay. Slide 9. Many of us have the need for competition. Many of you are on sports teams, right? You get this. I am not on a sports team, but I still feel the need to compete, right? We seek success, dominance in our field. I don't just want to be the best professor in SUNY Oswego. I want to be the best professor in the world. It's great that I can laugh at my own jokes. If we move on to slide 10, we're going to talk, this shows This shows a product. It's got an ad on slide 10 showing a product that helps with sweating, which is a product of work and possibly stress. So it's just an example of marketing to customers based on dealing with some of these attributes, okay? Motivation. So if we move on to slide 11, and we talk quickly about motivation theory and marketing strategy. So it basically shows a little bit of a flow chart. It is figure 10-1 in your book on page 373. So it's in the slides on slide 11, but it's also in your book as well. So let's look at starting in the middle, then left to right. So in the middle is consumption behavior. It's purchasing J. Crew clothes, okay? Do you all even know J. Crew? I mean, I remember J. Crew. I feel like they closed all those stores. Anyway, let's go with it. J. Crew, upscale, preppy, yeah. Picture like I have a yacht and I wear boat shoes, maybe? Anyway, I need a laugh track. That's what I need. I bet I can get one. So, manifest motives. So on the left, manifest motives are motives known freely. So their clothes are stylish, come in a variety of sizes and colors, of course, right? Their clothes are high quality. A number of my friends wear J. Crew clothes. These are not true statements about my life. I'm just reading this slide. Latent motives. So latent motives are on the far right. Motives unknown or reluctant to admit. So it will show that I'm sophisticated and trendy if I wear this J. Crew outfit. It's an upscale and, can't read, an urban brand that will make me powerful and popular. So manifest is stuff you know. Latent is the stuff you're hiding or you're not really cognizant of. Okay, so let's move on to the next page. Slide 12 talks about marketing strategy based on multiple motives. So involvement, okay? Involvement needs play a strong role in determining what's relevant to customers. Think about that. Needs play a strong role in determining what's relevant to customers. So my needs are different than your needs, right? I'm looking for family-friendly stuff, things for my child. So my needs will cause my motivation and my involvement to be very different with different brands. Okay? So that's really what I want you to think about with that. If we move on to slide 13, and we can just quickly talk about the 3 types of motivational conflict. Approach is a choice between 2 attractive alternatives. So for me, maybe not right now, but in the future, it would be a trip to Paris or a trip to Hawaii. Both great places. That would be a tough choice for me. Do I eat bread and cheese for a week? Do I drink Mai Tais for a week? Both enjoyable things. Approach avoidance, motivational conflict would be a choice with both positive and negative consequences. So I choose to be tan. Now, do I go get a spray tan or do I lay out in the sun? And we know laying out in the sun can cause skin cancer, can damage your skin, but a spray tan, the worst case scenario is that you look like a tangerine. Anyway, avoidance, motivational conflict. So that's a choice involving only undesirable outcomes. So like when our dishwasher died, do you think I really wanted to buy a dishwasher? No, I needed a dishwasher. And yeah, I know I could probably wash dishes, but I'm not gonna wash dishes. So I made the investment. I opened up a Lowe's credit card. I got 30% off, right? So marketers can find ways to even make those yucky things that you have to do, like in the future you'll be buying appliances, buying things you don't want to spend money on. Good companies will find ways to entice you to feel okay spending that money, to feel okay doing that. Slide 14 has a table. It's also on page 377 in your book, table 10-2. So left to right, it represents, on the left are motives. So that's time, feelings, emotions. In the middle, it's promotion-focused motives. So that's having to do with customers' hopes and aspirations. Long-term stuff. So take a look at that. Prevention-focused motives. So that revolves around safety and security. Okay. So take a look at that table. It's table 10-2, slide 14. It's also on page 377 in your book. We're going to skip slide 15. And let's talk a little bit about personality. Slide 16. Personality is an individual's characteristic response tendencies across similar situations. So think about your own personality, right? Some people could say, oh, that Maureen Melville, she's got personality. So think about your own personality, how you react to things, especially when it comes to purchasing different things, clothes, groceries. What is your buying personality? Motivation. While motivations are the energizing and directing force, that make consumer behavior purposeful. The personality of the customer guides what you do, right? Personality often guides what we do. So trait theories is something we talk about in this chapter. Trait theories regarding personality allow marketers to segment customers as a functionality of their personality differences. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So let's move on to the next slide, slide 17, which shows two different approaches here. Multi-trait. So the 5-factor model will be on the next slide. So we'll hold off and we'll talk about that on the next slide. Single trait approach. So there's 3 here. Consumer ethnocentrism, so that reflects a customer's level of bias against the purchase of foreign products. Okay, so back in the 80s, people felt such bias. They wanted to buy American cars because Japanese brands were taking all our jobs away. That kind of thing. Probably bad examples before you were born. Need for cognition, so that reflects the difference in how people engage and enjoy thinking. I enjoy thinking. Consumers' need for uniqueness. It's the reason why we buy special edition sneakers or we get a custom motorcycle made. Okay? So single trait approach. Consumers do feel that. Some consumers really feel that need for uniqueness. Okay? So if we move on to slide 18, this explains the 5-factor model of personality. So the core traits, all of these words should seem very recognizable to you. Extroversion, okay, so extroverts, people that prefer to be in large groups rather than alone, talkative, bold. I'd say your professor probably lands around there. Instability would be moody, temperamental. So these just are the 5 core traits. And take a look at that, kind of understand the descriptors around it. We're going to skip slide 19. Slide 20, the use of personality in marketing practice. So this is just a cute little slide to kind of say sometimes people choose products that fit their personality. Sometimes people pick products to try to make their personality better. Why do we spend a lot of money on expensive jeans, right? Or a Rolex. Sometimes we buy things to make us seem a little flashier or maybe make us seem a little more important. Remember, all this buying is all the stuff happening up here in your brain. So if we move on to page 21, we can talk a little bit about brand image and brand personality. So I want to know from you, this is another question you can answer. What do you think or feel when you hear these brands? Nike, Coca-Cola, Vans, Patagonia. on slide 22, the use of personality in marketing practice. So that just shows the dimensions of brand personality. This is also on page 381 in your book. So it maps out brand personalities, sincerity and excitement, that kind of stuff. So it's kind of it's a good visual way to look at brand personality. If you were to move on and take a look at slide 23, we're going to talk about 3 important advertising tactics. Y'all know celebrity endorsers, right? So who are some celebrity endorsers and for what brands? Those are very good questions. User imagery. So think about the commercials we've talked about in class. I always mention the iPhone commercials. There's so much imagery. It's upbeat, it's uplifting, there's cool music, there's a lot of color, okay? So, I think iPhone and Apple, they do a very good job using user imagery. Executional factors. So the pace of the ad, the medium in which the ad gets put out. So is it a digital ad? Is it a billboard ad? So executional factors are important. So if we take a look at slide 24, we start talking about emotion. Emotions are strong, relatively uncontrolled feelings that affect behavior. Think about the range of emotions we've all had in just the last week. This week has felt like a month. I hope I'm not alone in thinking that. Emotions are linked to needs, right? We all feel the need to feel safe, to feel happy, maybe to be with friends and family, to be with lots of people. Unmet needs create motivation. Personality also plays a role for how emotions affect you, okay? So if we move on to slide 25, it's also on page 383 in your book, this kind of nature of emotions. You follow it from left to right. So environmental events, so we're starting left to right, if you have the slide in front of you or the book. Environmental events, so that's viewing an ad. Mental imagery, so your own mental images. We all have mental images of ads, of brands, of products, of services. Psychological changes. There are a lot of psychological changes when we watch ads, when we consume media. Our eye pupils dilate, we sweat, we start breathing, we can start breathing heavy, our heart rate changes depending on the ads, right? So our bodies react. So right now, many of you could be your bodies could be reacting to what's going on in the world right now. You could be sleeping more or not sleeping enough, or, all of that stuff is normal. So I want you to really give yourselves a break, okay? This is weird for all of us, not just you all. This isn't something I've ever experienced either. And I'm finding that, I'm not sleeping that well. So, I guess self-care and take care of yourselves. So then interpret it as emotions. So, specific feelings, grief, fear, happiness. Behaviors are things like, like right now, I'm avoiding the news. I can't watch it. Other behaviors are crying or laughing, okay? So this just shows the nature of emotions from basically stimuli all the way to the emotion, okay? So if we move on to page 26 just shows the 3 dimensions of emotion. Please look at page 384 in your book. Table 10.4 maps these 3 dimensions out beautifully. I'm a little mad that they didn't make that a slide. I need to create my own book. And I didn't have time to pull that out of the book and make it a slide. So please take a look at page 384, because that really goes through PAD, pleasure, arousal, and dominance, okay? So if you take a look at slide 27, emotions and marketing strategy, we start talking about things, emotional arousal is a product benefit. So you look at something like gratitude. Gratitude, I know it's weird to think about gratitude. Right now I feel a huge sense of gratitude to, on my Instagram, I posted about Beacon Skiff, Apple Farm. They also own a distillery, which is called 1911. I'm sure many of you have heard of it. They're halting production of alcohol and instead making hand sanitizers for our community. And you know what? That's a pretty noble thing. Right now, the government is not telling people, they're not forcing people to do this stuff. So, you know, that's quite a sacrifice. And I will be back. I'll be back there in the fall picking apples. I'll be back there buying their ciders and all of their products. And I'll remember that kindness. Are there brands or companies right now that you feel gratitude towards? That's the question. That's another question. So moving on, page 28, emotions and marketing strategy, consumer coping in product and service encounters. I want you to think about emotional intelligence. Consumer emotional intelligence is an important determinant of effective consumer coping. So right now, we're going to really go through a lot of weirdness with our buying. I don't know if any of you have tried to buy anything on Amazon recently. If it, actually within the last 24 hours, if it is not one of those basic needs like grocery stuff or baby stuff, or I believe school supplies, if it's not one of those things, they're not shipping anything out until April 21st. So imagine how mad I was when I went to order a bag of cinnamon gummy bears. And I don't think those were considered necessary. So I gotta wait till April for them. My emergency gummy bears are gone. Anyway. All right, so page 29. Taking a look through emotion in advertising, right? We have talked about emotion in advertising. We've seen a lot of commercials. A lot of the Super Bowl commercials had emotion in them. The one that PETA, the protection of animals, and I never know what it stands for. Anyway, they had an ad that talked about loving nature, right? So there's emotion in advertising. What are some emotional ads that get you every time? Like for me, it's like the Campbell's soup ads when the guy from, comes home from war or whatever, and he surprises his mom, and his mom gets all happy, and they eat soup. I would eat something else, but you know what I'm saying. So that's another good question. What are some emotional ads that get you every time? So that's chapter 10. As I keep recording these, I'll hopefully get better, not worse. I will do my best to try to find a way to maybe drop some slides into my videos. I'm still not all the way there. So I think as of right now, I'm going to sign off. I'm going to say be safe, be well, and I'll talk to you soon.